Hey guys, Mary Bauer here. Welcome to my sneak peek into my math, Common Core math video series. Today I'm just going to take a quick second and show you guys a few math tips and tricks with some real problems and give you a brief overview of who I am and some of the heart behind the Common Core. So I want to start with some tips and tricks that I actually learned in one of my first Common Core math classes as a teacher. As an adult, I really struggled with simple addition. So like talking about adding up numbers on students' papers, balancing my checkbook, adding numbers at the grocery store, things like 17 plus 9, 17 plus 55, stuff like that was really hard for me to do in my head. And so this strategy is something that blew my mind and really got me sold on the Common Core math from a very early on part in my teaching career. So I'm gonna give you guys a problem, play along with me, and let's see how this goes. I want you to take the problem 73 plus 98, and I want you to do that in your head, okay? So just think about that for a second. Now, if you're a traditional person, probably like me or a lot of the parents that I have helped over the years, you probably wanted to line up 93 under 78 and just add that straight away. That's a strategy that you were taught. Let me take you on a little tour of what it would look like in a Common Core math class. So let's say I put this on the board and I'd say something like, okay students, Bob was given this problem 73 plus 98, and he can't for the life of him remember how his teacher taught him to do this problem. And he's kind of freaking out, he's on his test, and he doesn't know what to do. I want you to, by yourself, in your group, come up with 2 ways that Bob can solve this problem. You can use a number line, you can use pictures, you can use just straight up numbers, whatever you do. I want you to think about some ways, just thinking about 73 and 98, thinking about those numbers, what they actually mean, what they would look like, and how can you maybe play with this problem just a little bit to make it make sense and be able to add those numbers together. Then I would give students 2 or 3 minutes in their group, and then I'd say, okay guys, I want you to take a minute and share with the people in your group the strategies and solution ways that you came up to solve this problem. Go. And I'd give them about 5 minutes to share their strategies in their group. And then, this is the fun part, I'd ask students to either come up to the board or raise their hand and say what they did. So maybe somebody said, oh, I got an idea. I'm like, okay, cool, how did you think of this? And students, guys, and I'm telling you, these are students that are not just gifted students, these are students that struggle with mathematics. I've taught anything down from the very, very low basic pre-algebra 7th grade math up to gifted geometry. And these are students that range from everything. Everybody has some sort of critical thinking aspect to their mind. We all think differently, but any kind of student can thrive in these environments when given the chance. So some kid will answer, oh, Miss Bauer, I did this. I did 73 plus 100, because 98 is really close to 100. And I can do 73 plus 100 in my head. That's 173. And then I just had 2 extra that I added, so I'm just gonna subtract that. So I got 171 as my answer, which is pretty cool. And when I started to see that, I was like, oh my goodness, that's so much faster than trying to add 8 and 3, carry, borrow, do all of that kind of stuff. I've had other students say things like, well, I'm just gonna take this number, 73, and I'm gonna turn it into 71, and I'm gonna have 2 of these numbers over here to make this 100. I'm gonna add those, I'm gonna make them 70 plus 100, which is 171. So kind of cool. So what I would do is I'd have these up on the board and they'd say, okay, let's try another problem. We're gonna erase this. I'm gonna give you a new problem. This time, I want you to look at the problem I give you, and I want you to look for the most efficient method that makes sense to you. If you like this method, try that. If you like this method, try that. If you like the way that you did it before and you think that's efficient, try that. So we're always giving students opportunities to look at different ways of thinking, but we're always going for efficiency. Okay, so let's try another problem. This one is one of my favorites, doing stuff with multiplication. Students have a really hard time. When we grew up, traditionally, I remember doing flashcards. I do all my multiplication things, but we struggle with things like all of our 9s timetables. Do you guys remember doing like counting on your fingers, all those kind of things? Well, we do that because we don't have a strategy for figuring out a problem. So what I like to do is, I'm gonna use my skirt because I didn't come prepared today. So what I like to do is give them another problem, and I'll say something like, okay, Jill was doing her math homework last night and she was given the problem 7 times 9. And she could not for the life of her remember what 7 times 9 was. I want you to come up with 3 other strategies that Jill could have used to solve this problem. And again, I'll give kids time in their groups. Now, before we start these problems, I will have had a conversation with students and I said, what does 7 times 9 mean? And they'll say, oh, it means 7 times 9. I'm like, no, what does it really actually mean? Like, if you think about this, what does multiplication mean? And after a while, we'd be able to have a discussion. Someone would say, oh, it's 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7, 9 times. Or maybe it's 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9, 7 times. So if we think of this as 7 groups of 9, and students really understand that, then this problem becomes kind of fun. And students might say something like, well, maybe she could have done this. We know that 7 times 10 is 70, because that's 10 groups of 7 or 7 groups of 10. So if I have 7 times 9, well, 10 groups of 7 is 70. Right here, that's 1 less group of 7, so I can just subtract 7 from here, and I'm gonna get 63. Somebody else might say, well, I know 7 times 7, because a lot of students know their doubles first. That's 49. And I need 2 more groups of 7 right here, so 7 times 2, that's 14. So together, that makes 63. So students are not just memorizing math facts, but they're coming up with ways to strategically break things up. This becomes extremely important when we get to double digits, to be able to do that in our head, and even better when we get to fractions, because students can start to break up problems and really see what's going on with these problems. So if your elementary school kids are coming home and you're used to teaching them, 13 times 15, and you're used to doing 5 times 3, 5 times 1, all those things, and they're coming home with really weird ways of doing things, let me put you at ease. You're gonna get to this method eventually, because there's certain problems that we're not gonna do in our head. We have to do them this way. But we're teaching kids strategies that they look weird when they come home to you for the first time, but we're building them up so that they can be able to think strategically like this, so that when they get to these problems later, sometimes they can do them in their head, but maybe sometimes they'll have to do them this way. And the cool thing is when they get to algebra, and they're doing things like x plus 4 times 2x minus 7, this type of problem is exactly the same thing as this type of problem. And if students understand how this can be broken up, they can do problems like this. Guys, I never taught my students to do x times 2x, 4 times negative 7, 4 times 2x, and negative 7 times x. My students came up with that on their own because I gave them the strategies and they really understood these problems. So those are some simple things I'm going to be showing you guys throughout my series. I hope that you enjoyed this. Again, my name is Mary Bauer. I just finished my 5th year teaching mathematics. I got a degree in education at the University of Idaho. Taught in Northern Idaho for 3 years, and here in Chandler, Arizona, I taught 2 years. Got a master's in education, and I specialized. My master's program was actually on fraction multiplication and division from a Common Core standpoint. I was the biggest skeptic in the world when it came to this Common Core stuff. I remember sitting in one of my math teaching methods classes saying to the people around me, this is the dumbest thing ever. Students can't come up with their own solution methods. Teachers should just lecture and come up with fun ways to memorize things. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, I'm just gonna listen to this stuff. It's gonna go in one ear and out the other. 5 years later, here I am today, sitting in front of you guys, well, I guess almost 6 years later. I am in love, and I am blown away by the changes and the excitement and the understanding that students who never understood math before have finally found their voice and been validated in the fact that they too can understand mathematics. There's a lot of bad stuff out there. There's a lot of curriculum that's really hard for teachers to understand, especially parents, and there's not great resources all the time. So I definitely understand the frustration. I've been there myself. I've had to create so much of my own curriculum because the support is just not out there. But this video series is not to add to the complaining. It's really to be a tool to be helpful for you guys. So please stay tuned. Monday will be my first video. If you guys have specific requests about what your students are doing, I would love to take those. Feel free to email me, maryfitfreak@gmail.com. Check me out on YouTube, and just to give you guys a heads up, if you want to check out this is one of my favorite books. It's called Teaching Student-Centered Mathematics. This is an older version. You can get them on Amazon. They're not printing them anymore, but they're super cheap if you find the older version. I love the grades 5 through 8. They also have a K through third grade one as well, and then a 3 through 5. It's really excellent, and even just the beginning really talks about the overall ideas behind everything. So let me pull in my favorite student here. Hope you guys that helped, and I can't wait to continue our journey. Can you say hi, Evelyn? Hi, have a great night, guys. Bye.